Welcome everyone to the penultimate destination in our 5-year journey, Garland's quarterly journey around the Indo-Pacific, where we return to Indonesia, particularly Java, a very interesting set of stories to tell about innovation and craft. I like to think that these meetings are in the cloud, but clouds do eventually come to earth as rain. And I hear there's a lot of rain in Indonesia right now, also the north of Australia. Anyway, the traditional owners of my land are the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I give my respects to their elders and any Indigenous peoples who are present. Today we consider the theme of Pembaharu, the Indonesian word for innovation. As Frans Panjaitan remarked about the generation that's represented in this issue, we who are always questioning, we who want to collaborate, we who are not afraid of technology because we see it as a tool to enrich the crafts itself instead of destroying it. Well, let's hear from that generation of Indonesian designers, scholars, makers, and we're joined this afternoon, by Nancy Magrid. Hello, Nancy.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Kevin.
Where are you?
I am from Indonesia. My work is Digital Tenun Nusantara.
And whereabouts in Indonesia are you?
I'm in West Java, Bandung.
Very hot?
Yes, the situation now is great, but as you mentioned, there's some rainy in Indonesia, but in my location right now, it's pretty hot. So yeah, we can see the effect of climate change right now happening.
And Eugenio, where are you?
Right now I'm in East Java, in Tuban actually. And as you can see, I'm sweating here, so it's quite hot here.
Yes,
so.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Selamat siang now?
Selamat siang.
And Nidia Kusmaya?
Yes.
And whereabouts are you?
So here is raining pretty hard every day. Well, actually nearby my town, there was flood as well, but because, my town is nearby Bogor, it's a raining city. So it's quite chill right now.
So which part of Indonesia is that?
Oh, I'm in Sukabumi.
And where is that?
In West Java.
West Java. And Janet Toerang, where are you?
Hi, Kevin, and hi, everyone. I'm in Surabaya. Surabaya is one of the largest city after Jakarta, located in East Java, almost the same with Eugenio as well.
I see, very close. And Pariana Puspaputra, welcome.
Hi, Kevin. Hi, everybody. I'm Pariana. I'm come from Yogyakarta, the center of Java. It's a center of cultural city. It's about 500 kilometers from Jakarta to east and south side.
Wonderful. It features quite a lot in this issue, obviously, Yogyakarta. And Sabrina. Welcome.
Hello.
Sabrina Sakina.
Yes. Hello. I'm currently in Bandung, West Java. Same with Nancy, I think. But I'm living in the northern part of Bandung, so it's quite cool right now. It's not that hot.
Yes. It's up a bit higher, is it?
Yes.
And Guy Ceulemans. So this is an opportunity to extend this conversation about innovation beyond Indonesia. Guy, where are you now?
I'm in Sydney, Kevin. Thanks for inviting me. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm speaking on, which is the Gadigal and Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, which is the eastern Sydney part of Australia.
Good. Thank you. And Pamela, good to see you again.
Yes, hello. I'm in Brisbane and the Turrbal people are the traditional owners of the land up here. I'm also very grateful for the invitation to come along today.
Great, good to see you here. So let's start and have a look at the sorts of stories that you've put together. And if we begin with Nancy, I'll just get the screen up. Just a sec. That. Okay. So Nancy, you're writing about this technology, the Tenon. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, first of all, thank you so much, Kevin, and all the Garland Magazine team for inviting me to represent my team on this issue. Basically, the Tenun is the abbreviation for Digital Tenun Nusantara. It's digital weaving, archipelago digital weaving. So that's the direct translation from Indonesian. This initiative is to create artificial intelligence or machine learning application to for the artisans, so to enable them to create new weaving patterns using technology. And this we started this initiative, this project as a research in 2015, and the idea is to create to hand the artisan what we call it as a working sheet, a standardized working sheet, so they can structurize their working process, and then they can create a more and newer and more variety of weaving textile pattern. And the goal is to involve the artisans, of course, in digital economy, and to transform their art, their traditional art, using technology, and to do skill automation, because we're see that this is important for regeneration. I think that's some short introduction that I can present right now. I hope we can talk more later on after the panel introduce their work. Thank you, Kevin.
Terrific. So this seems like a very useful tool in terms of developing new designs based on traditional patterns. Thank you very much, Nancy. So if we move on now to Eugenio Hendro.
Yes, I'm here.
And can you tell us about this service, this way in which designers have been working with artisans that you've been part of?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Eugenio Hendro. I'm a product designer. Mostly I design furniture and home decor in Jakarta. But I'm really grateful for you to feature us in me and my team in the Garland magazine, because we need this kind of publication, because there's a lot of artisan that needs to be mentioned or known. Okay, DDS stands for Designer Dispatch Service. It's basically a program initiated by the Ministry of Trade of Indonesia. And then in this issue of, as you can see on the picture, I was working with the artisan in East Java, particularly in Bangil, Pasuruan, and Tulung Agung. We work with marble and then embroidery. What we do with them, what we collaborate with them is we introduce them with the new market, and then basically we became the bridge between the old skill and then how they can create a new product that are relevant to the new market, the contemporary market. Sometimes the artisans are not aware that what they do is already outdated. So we as the designer came to them and then learn together, because we designers also learn so much from the artisans, and then there's always a knowledge transfer between designers and artisans, and then from that collaborations we come out with products that are more relevant and more suitable with the modern living. I think that is for me right now.
Thank you very much, Eugenio, and it certainly shows a commitment. I got the sense in your article of a sense that you had that these communities were stuck somehow in a certain tradition, and
yes,
there was a danger with that their work would be lost. So
yes,
the role of a designer to come in and help them continue the tradition, but in new designs. So thank you very much. Let's now go to Nidia.
Yeah.
Kusmaya.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for the invitation for today. This is my work. Actually, I'm textile artist and researcher. I'm doing several research with university as well, with Bandung Institute of Technology. So at the beginning, I start with natural dye actually. So I utilize from kitchen waste and stuff, making the colors directly from what we eat every day. But from there, I realized, I can't utilize all the kitchen waste, especially for carbohydrate and protein base, to color my textile. So I kind of finding out how to use it with bacteria. So with them, I incorporate to grow bacteria from kitchen waste to utilize it and make color out of it. And I adapt some technique from batik and also the resist dye kind of things, adapt a little bit more to apply it in a lab with my micro gardening things in a lab to making color. Yeah. I think
wonderful. Well, maybe one day you can think of making some dyes out of coronavirus. That would be
that would be yeah, that
a
would
better
be
use of it than currently. So
yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing that story about micro farming, and obviously a way of thinking about dyeing and batik beyond the traditional boundaries of natural dye, but still working with organic materials and with an ecological base. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
And I think we now go to Janet, who had a couple of articles. Let's say the first one in Pasuruan Regency around eco-printing with batik artisans.
Okay, first of all, I would like to thank to Garland Magazine, because of this chance that to introduce the artisans from the Pasuruan Regency, so they're able to show their creativity. So basically, this is the beneficiaries from my alumni grant scheme. Yeah, so they after the program is finished, so after the program is finished, so they gather together and then they exchange the information and then they exchange the skills. Yeah, so this is what they made it. So they collaborate using the eco-printing technique combined with the batik skills from the Pasuruan Regencies. And then for this, they mix with the, actually eco-printing is not really a very new thing, but they made it into the materials. Yeah, the materials is made from the coconut fibers and also it's from the mangrove fruits. So it's quite new. And then also they put the colors on the eco printing thick leaves. Yeah, they color it alongside also with the batik, handmade batik. So this is a very great opportunity, Kevin. So we are very pleased that to show this on the article.
Congratulations. Now, just excuse me while I get up your other article, because you had two. And if we go to the one, Batik Batara, tell us about that.
Yeah, the next one is also the same, is from the Pasuruan Regency. So these are the women from the factory workers, actually. So the factory workers were initiated to learn batik, handmade batik, eco printing, and then thankfully, yeah, there is a agricultural company in Pasuruan Regency give the chance to their factory workers to learn about this. And then also they create a batik training. So hopefully after the COVID-19 pandemic is over, maybe some of the tourists can come to learn batik in this place.
Right. Good. So working closely with a company, in this case, a partnership, showing the arrangements involved in development of craft. Thank you very much, Janet. Now,
yes,
if we could take flight and hear from Pariana Puspaputra about butterfly jewelry. Hello, Pariana.
Hello. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you to Garland because you introduced me to Australia, and thank you to the Australian government that introduced me to Australia. I have got the Australian Jewelry Award, so that brings me to the community of jewelry that give me inspiration to make innovation to the about the jewelry. Start from my visit to Butterfly Park, I found that so many butterfly there, and their life is in they live in a preservation because people use them as a souvenir, and they keep them for that souvenir. They keep them when they are alive. So I found that it's very changes for their living, and finally I try to find the idea how to make a jewelry from the butterfly wing, but jet butterfly, so it's broken. We cannot get all the body of butterfly, but we can get only a part of it. So I combine that idea with the idea of gemstone. They cut it in a certain shape, and then I try to cut that part of butterfly in a shape, and then we design in a form of jewelry. So I hope that this idea will support the butterfly preservation and support the environment rare animal preservation. So I hope that I can increase the community of the Krakal area in Kebumen to use their butterfly as a part of jewelry material. That's the idea.
Thank you very much. Wish you all the best, and be very interested to see how this story evolves as it's used in the Butterfly Park. Now, if we go to Sabrina, are you there? Sabrina Sakino?
Hello.
Hello.
Okay.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you. I have to apologize beforehand because my connection is not that good. So But I'd like to thank Kevin and also Garland Magazine for providing the platform for us to share stories. This first article from me is about basically talking about the advantages of living in Indonesia. There's so many craftspersons and also artisans that are living very near to us, very close to us. And I also talk about the importance of introducing these artisans to students at a younger age. Normally, students in university might not know how artisans work, and they only learn theoretically, but by introducing these artisans earlier in their 4 years of academic in college, I hope that they can learn more and also experience more through these works. This is about this article. And these are artisans from Majalaya. They're very close to Bandung, which is the city where I live. And they're amazing artisans. They can pretty much weave anything you ask them to. So this was an amazing experience for me and also my students.
Yes, and you talk about the use of WhatsApp now for collaboration.
Yes. Yeah, during the pandemic, my student actually started a business, which I found very interesting because during the pandemic, normally a lot of businesses closed down, but my student decided to actually start a business. And she said making the weavings were discussed through WhatsApp. And I don't think Zoom, but WhatsApp, because the quota for the internet is much lower. Yeah, so that was really interesting.
Thank you very much for that. Beautiful photos, I must say. Now let's go to Guy Ceulemans, the Case for Wood. Greetings, Guy.
Thanks, Kevin. Is my video on? Can you see me okay?
Yes.
Oh, great. Yeah, so this article basically advocates for greater use of wood by designers, but also for the design of and redesign of the timber industry. We know that wood is, a fantastic material. It can do so many things. And it's experiencing a renaissance right now, for example, in glulam, high-rise construction of buildings. And we're just flicking through some historical examples of some of the kind of crazy things that have been made out of wood, such as, airplanes and so on. And we know, of course, that wood is also so important for, carbon sequestration. So it has a big role to play in ameliorating the effects of climate change. But I think the kind of key insight in the article that I'm trying to communicate is that wood is used in a kind of entropic way, that we downgrade wood through various different uses. We chop it up and we turn it, unfortunately, into paper and pulp, for example. Whereas actually wood, the way that it is grown and comes out of the earth is negentropic. It creates structure, it creates complexity. And we need to, I think, harness more of the naturally grown complexity of wood and take advantage of its potential. And I think that to relate it to Indonesia, what's interesting is that, Indonesia has so much primary rainforest. And in that slide that just went past, we saw some work from a friend and colleague of mine who's done a really amazing design ethnography in the Brazilian rainforest of all the fantastic kinds of tools and products that can be created from natural rainforest. And I'm quite sure it's the same situation in Indonesia as well. But more broadly, I think we can also start to bring to bear new technologies in how we understand the naturally grown complexity of wood and utilize it. So in the images that are below this one, we can see some examples of how, for example, naturally grown tree structures like tree trusses and forks have been used in shipbuilding historically. And in this image, we see a really interesting study done by the Architectural Association of the UK, where they've used 3D scanning to identify tree forks and then used a generative algorithm, essentially an AI program, to optimize it and construct it in a very efficient way using CNC milling as the robotic manufacturing method. This kind of stuff is really new and underexplored, and I think it should create a lot of really fascinating innovation in the future.
Great, thank you very much, guy. And as you know, we've had a number of articles on a similar theme in Garland, but this is the first that I think goes to the structural essence of timber as a key to its design and production. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And finally, we go to Pamela, whose article is on canting and extrusion and the history of Chinese Indonesians. Welcome, Pamela.
Thank you for that introduction. So I actually have been doing some research into 3D printing, and in this case, it was particularly interesting to have a look at how that technology was being integrated in Indonesia. It's a country where the adoption rates are relatively low. They did a survey of over 100 people, I think around 109 people, and found that none of those subjects actually owned a printer themselves. And yet, at the same time, you have designers such as Tex Salvario, who have been gracing the international stage with their garments and accessories using the very same techniques. What we have on screen is an image of 3D printed sort of a textile portion, which they're hoping, the team were hoping to be able to expand into a full garment. So what's sophisticated about it is that you see how the components are interlocking together. So they've been designed to be able to allow movement on a relatively, I mean, plastics they only have a certain sort of a capacity to bend. It would otherwise be uncomfortable. And so they thought that batik in particular offered not only aesthetic, but strength as well. So other examples that I use, that's Tex Salvario, and that particular technique that he used, it's actually gold. And I suspect that it wasn't printed in gold, although in some articles it's specified as such, but most likely being printed in a material that's been investment cast. So what they can do, it's called stereolithography, and it was the first variety of 3D printing to emerge in America in 1984. But they use like a bath of photosensitive liquid polymer, and then a mirror and a laser will come through a light to solidify it in position. So it creates a very, very accurate and smooth model from, a print from a 3D model, and then that is later used in investment casting process. On the other end of the spectrum, we have artists like FX Hosono, who he used very, very basic techniques in the sense that he had, he or people that he was working with, that's not specified, used like an SLS or a digital camera, and they photographed 360 degrees of different sites, memorial sites that he wished to be recorded, and effectively became a 3D scan through a process called photogrammetry. So they have a program to join these all up in 3 dimensions, and then he later used a very basic method of 3D printing called FDM, or fused deposition modeling, which architects had used, but most of us, particularly in Australia, for say, you could buy a 3D model, a 3D printer of this kind for maybe $200-300. So, but it's often used in architecture to create the models, very accessible. But more or less, it was to enable him to give a monumentality to these grave sites that were otherwise perhaps they've been overlooked. And his work has really been about bringing acknowledgement to the victims of some violence directed towards the Chinese, particularly as Indonesia headed towards independence in 1949 from the Dutch. I don't know if do you need any more about the article? Sorry, Kevin, I can keep going.
That's enough to get us going. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Pamela, and it's great to have a reference there to 3D printing. So if we can come back now and join together for a discussion, if I can start things off with a question about technology, because one of the stories of technology, of course, is the discovery of the new. And we see that, for instance, in the evolution of materials such as rubber, which became plastic, the idea that science creates new substances and processes that replace the older versions, are more efficient and capable. And this story has been one where craft itself is often in conflict, because technology is seen to replace craft. And we see that obviously in the case of weaving with the mechanical loom, which replaced the hand loom. And in areas like batik, where we see not only silk screen, but also digital printing replacing the handmade batik. So my question is, and I'd be interested in your thoughts, in terms of the technology that we've heard about today from you, is that what is going on? Are you looking at technology that is improving and replacing crafts? Or what else is happening? Is there a different kind of story happening here? Would anyone like to step in?
Okay.
I'd like to
Nancy?
To give my opinion on that. There's always controversy around technology and craft and traditional craft. It's been years. I've been working in this area for more than 10 years. Me and Eugene is going way back, and he understands this, like really understand this maybe better than me, because he's a designer and my background is business and communication. So the barrier is really, it's large, and there's still perspective from the traditional community, especially the artisans, that the technology will replace their existence. So that alone is already like a big barrier to adopt technology. Like Pamela said, the adoption rate is very low. On the other hand, we see Texaferio creating fashion using 3D digital print. So the gap is like really big. And then to adopt technology in traditional art or craft is, I think it's a decades of challenges. So we, first of all, I think in this area is really to define how technology can help and can innovate the craft rather than to kill them. So I think that's very important to understand and to make, to give understanding for the craft traditional community to be able to adopt the technology. I think that's from my experience.
So it serves the craft, not necessarily only the consumer.
I don't, maybe because my community is the crafters, the traditional craft, the artisans. I think the first barrier is the producer, because the consumer is ready. The consumer is ready to accept the technology. So in my opinion, I might be wrong, but that's my experience, because the younger customers right now, like the millennials, because everybody, like every business now targeting the millennials. They're ready for the new, the innovation, the modern design, and the modern look or the modern products. So they're ready, but the crafters is still hesitant to adopt technology. That's in my opinion. Like if we see the example that Pamela mentioned before, a designer from Indonesia using 3D printing, and it's very successful in Hollywood. So the market is ready. And how about the artisans? Are they ready to adopt the technology? I think because there's still how is it, the barrier and the ill perspective about the technology, and they're afraid that technology will replace them, and then they cannot make they will lose their income, and then there's also the gap on how the artisan can use technology to improve their work. And I think that problem needs to be solved, I think, by us. What so-called...
It sounds a long journey. I wonder, thank you. I wonder, Eugenio, what your thoughts are about this, because you're not so much focused on technology, but more product design in
Yes.
Adapting some of the skills to new forms. How have you seen, what do you think the purpose of that is essentially?
Well, basically, what we talk about with the artisans and especially the traditional artisans is we want to preserve the craftsmanship, and we want to make products that are acceptable by the market, especially the millennials, because the artisan also targeting the millennials market. But when we speak about technologies, most of them even don't know how to use WhatsApp, or as simple as that. Like it's something that is not in their blood. While what Nancy is trying to do with digital Tenun, that's good. But then again, there's a lot of artisans in Indonesia that don't know how to react with technology. And that's one thing. And then the second thing is they have to preserve the craftsmanship itself. So that's two points. How can we solve these 2 points if we want to move into the next chapter of craftsmanship in Indonesia? That's also something that is very debatable when we talk with the artisans, with the local artisans, because they don't know how to react to the technology. But then again, they want something that is they want new generations of artisans, but they don't know how to communicate with the new generations of artisans, because what they do is not considered sexy anymore. That's why the young generation doesn't do the craftsmanship anymore, that traditional craftsmanship. In a matter of fact, I'm in Tuban right now. This showroom is owned by a woman. That is, she weave tenun gedok. Tenun gedok is basically a traditional tenun in Tuban. Almost died also. Need something new for the market to accept. But then we also I don't know how to say. Technology is tricky. When we communicate with artisan, it's very tricky. When we introduce a technology, it's very hard. But then again, we need to move forward. I don't know if digital Tenun is already advanced, is very advanced, but what I can do right now is develop a new, well, the color doesn't do justice here, but then again, they usually do normal weaving, just only using white cotton and then brown cotton. What I introduced to them is how to mix them with color. So they create a new type of weaving. But that's about it. I want to introduce more, but then again, they cannot accept it.
Right. So it sounds a slow, gradual process.
Yes.
One requiring understanding and patience.
Exactly.
Does anybody else have something to say about this? Pariano?
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. I'm actually an engineer, a mechanical engineer that work as a lecturer in Universitas Islam Indonesia, Yogyakarta. before I became an engineer, I actually a consultant in automation industry. So I work with technology. And why I moved to Jewelry is try to help the traditional jewelers to use the technology. So in my opinion, the art and craft and so on make this word beautiful, and technology will make it faster for realization. So I find some cases that crafter or artisan need technology. I have a community, jewelry community, and many problems in technology can be solved by bridging or connecting the craft artisan with the engineers. So in my project, I use technology because I have to cut the fragile wing because it's very we have to very careful to cut that broken wing into a certain form, and then to frame it because I have to make a frame with very thin 0.2 millimeters by casting, because if I make it traditionally by soldering, you know, it will be broken. So we combine that technology and traditional way, and I can prove that technology and artisan and craft can work together. So I think that's Kevin. One of my concentration of research is combining the art and technology.
Well, I think it's very interesting. We don't normally think of engineering as playing a role in this, but as you say, when you're dealing with great delicate material, it can be very useful. I wonder, Guy, you looked like you had something to contribute to this.
Well, I'm always thinking of things to say, but I'm trying to hold my tongue to let others speak as much as possible. But I think what I was just thinking is that we perhaps need to think a little bit about what we call technology. Actually, there's technology everywhere. I mean, even in the example you started off this conversation with, Kevin, with the traditional weaving machine, that's technology. But we don't consider it as much technology as the newer forms of technology that are overtaking it, the Jacquard loom or new forms of algorithmic design, for example. And I think the danger is in always identifying technology as the new thing that's coming, is that we seem to tacitly accept its capacity to take over and dominate the older forms of technology, even if those older forms of technology are still perfectly serviceable, functionable, and in fact desirable in the sense that they add to the pluriverse, right? The idea that we don't all live the same way, we're not all the same culture, and we all actually operate in different kinds of cultural spheres that need different kinds of cultural engagements. So I think any kind of technology that you've identified as capable of taking over another technology should be viewed with suspicion. And certainly when I talk about technology in my article, new forms of 3D scanning and how that can engage with traditional forestry and timber management, it's a kind of technology that should only enhance what's already there and not seek to dominate it or totalize it.
Right. So I think what you're getting at is the way we might assume that there is a kind of a world before and after technology, or maybe before and after the machine, one which is organic and traditional, and the other which is more mechanical and inauthentic. And maybe if we see them as a equivalent in the sense of different devices and technologies, it opens possibilities up without that kind of romantic perspective.
I think another criteria that which we can judge technologies by is how much do they foster diversity, right? I mean, actually, if we look at this conversation we're having right now through Zoom, you could argue that Zoom's actually a great technology. I mean, we've got all these people from different parts of Indonesia engaging with a couple of people from different parts of Australia. That's diversity right there, and that's fantastic. But if a technology, whether you think it's like, automatic weaving or something else, is actually crushing other diverse forms of technology, then that's a bad technology, right? So I'm just sort of, I guess, trying to articulate that technologies are different, but we need a kind of a sophisticated criteria to understand which technologies are good and which ones are bad.
Right. Just before I see if anyone else has something to say, I think we've been joined by Puspita. Are you Pematasari? Are you there? Oh, she's having trouble connecting. Let us know when you can. Did anyone else have something to contribute to this discussion?
I will a little bit addition because currently some technology are offered to the craftsman or artisan, and artisan usually don't know what beyond the technology, how the principle of it. So that they think that technology is modern, but sometimes like a 3D printing, some think that 3D printing can solve everything, but it actually has restriction. It's a problem when people buying it and after that don't know how to use, or they have a restriction and cannot use that machine to what we need. That's what technology have to contribute to.
Sure,
to the art.
Thank you. And when we did our event in Mexico, in Oaxaca, we saw with traditional Zapotec potters that they were quite happy to use 3D printing, but were very critical of what it could and couldn't do. But let's hear if there are any other particular perspectives on the role of technology, whether it's...
if you don't mind, Kevin, Kevin and I have had quite extensive discussions about this particular topic, actually, in a different context, just within China and the integration of CNC technology with paper cutting. And there was a lot of concerns when it started to be integrated that it would compromise the livelihoods of people doing paper cutting. But what we found is instead of these practitioners cutting many multiples, at times hundreds of these objects for reproduction, utilizing the technologies enabled them to make a living, but also then they're able to produce far more intricate artworks of their own liking for museums, and the market differentiation has also increased the value of their hand-cut work. I think that all technologies they should be viewed on a continuum. So, for instance, the kind of paper cutting that I practice from my maternal home province, it developed in the Song dynasty. So it was considered new technology then, and it's even more interesting to me when I teach it in a class in Australia or Canada or the US and Norway, anywhere. It's this that to them, to the participants, it's a new technology, and then they go and find ways to use it. So they might start to hand cut stencils for screen printing or applique fabric together. So that's introduced to them as something new. But in the purest sense, if we're talking about the Luddites and a resistance towards technology, it was always about its social implications. So how it was used. And I think it's I would caution against saying whether or not a technology is intrinsically bad or good. But most certainly in all the cases that we have looked at over our time together, Kevin, it's always about the distribution of it, because all new technologies require some amount of training, so you need very specific skills to use it properly. But that said, that what I'm finding also is that people who are not it's really interesting. Say you're a technologist and they're really fascinated with new technology in that sense. So technological determination per se, to make it easy. So they always want something that's new, but then if they haven't got those foundational skills, craft skills, it's quite an impairment to their development as well. So I think there's always going to be a place for traditional craft, as in the context we're talking about today.
Thanks very much, Pamela. And I certainly recommend you have a look at Pamela's article. Sabrina, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Actually, it has something to do with Pamela just said. Here in Indonesia, we often teach students that there are two goals when it comes to crafts. The first kind of craft that you can create is the type of craft that perseveres, that preserves the types of old traditional type of crafts. And then there's a newer type of craft that's the goal is actually to innovate. So I think when it comes to technology, it's actually, sorry, apologize for this. This is the Azan. It's
We know where you are.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, so there's, when it comes to innovation, you can put all sorts of technologies into the craft itself. But when it comes to my case in my article itself, the craft itself was not touched by anything new. The technology was not in the craft itself. The craft remained as it traditionally is. It's a hand-woven type of weaving. But the technology came in and it became a bridge between the weavers and my student. And then it became a bridge too between my student and her market. So she used WhatsApp to communicate between the weaver and herself. And then she used Instagram to communicate between herself and her market. So technology can come in right directly to the craft itself. It can also become a bridge between the craftsperson and the other parts of the craft world.
Thank you. And that's certainly the case now with e-commerce, and we'll be doing some experiments in that on the Garland platform. So very pleased to see you finally. Puspita, hello. You just unmute.
Yes, hi.
Where
Hi everyone.
are you?
Sorry. Now I just arrived at home, so yeah.
Where is home?
Yeah, I mean in Lugano in Switzerland. So
Right.
I told you in the email that I had a difficulty to be on time because of the residence permit stuff, but now it's okay.
Okay, shall we hear just very briefly from you before we wrap up about your article?
Yeah. Yeah.
There we are. If you could tell us, summarize your article.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin. It's my pleasure to be here to talk with all of you. So my name is Puspita Ayu Permatasari. I'm a PhD candidate at in the field of information communication technology and intangible cultural heritage and tourism in Università della Svizzera Italiana in Lugano, Switzerland. So the fact that our campus is the one of the UNESCO chair for ICT to develop and promote sustainable tourism at World Heritage Sites. So we combine, actually develop ICTs for helping the sustainable tourism at World Heritage Sites and also intangible heritage. And for intangible heritage, Batik is one of the first worldwide project that we do, that we use the artificial intelligence to decode Indonesian 124. I mean, we put the database of the 124 motif across Indonesia, 34 provinces, and I told the story in this article. So basically, I was fascinated about batik, not directly just because of my family, but my family background. I'm the descendant of the Sumeneb royal clan, so I'm the last one. So my grandmother still carry this kind of customs of wearing jarik in a royal way, something like that. It was when I was 7 or 8 years old, seeing my grandmother's, my grandmother put the batik in such a meticulous way. So, but she actually inspired me to learn more about antiquities. But then she also liked Chinese paintings and ceramics. But then when I graduated, when I 18 years old, I had to choose the major. At that time, I chose Bachelor of Chinese Studies. So by learning Chinese, I know that every kanji has all the meanings. So I was kind of wondering back to 7 years old, 8 years old, memories was kind of, oh, maybe the batik that was my grandmother wearing have all the meanings. So that was like a tweaking that I, traveled to other culture first, to Chinese culture, then to look back that Indonesian actually has a really rich meanings. So that was the first start. And then I did my master in Université de Paris, Paris 1, Panthéon Sorbonne in Paris, in France, with the subject of, focusing on how to create batik village, to create sustainable tourism, connecting batik villages in Madura. So in order to compile my master thesis at that time, I had a chance to travel to 4 cities in Bangkalan, Sumeneb, and also in Bangkalan, Sampang, Pamekasan, Sumeneb in Madura Island. So all the 4 cities to see the difference between batik villages in one area to the other. So when I graduated, also during the master, I did some internship at UNESCO delegation in Paris, Indonesian delegation for UNESCO in Paris, and also in Switzerland. But then there I found out that there are a lot of complexities in order to come up to, to help a country, to facilitate a country, or to maintain the status of World Heritage Sites and also intangible cultural heritage among nations. So then I saw, a lot of complexities in terms of not only the diplomacy, but also in the technological, science point of view. But then after that, I decided to take the journey of a PhD. And there, my mission is to create I Wear Batik, which stands for I Am Aware of Batik, interaction software of batik that helps people to use the artificial intelligence to decode at least 8 motifs there. So there are lereng, parang, ceplok, and kawung, and merak, gurda, and megamendung, and the other one is, ampik,
Okay.
Ampik from Kalimantan.
Thank you very much.
So at least, so you'll see the last but not least, we developed this website and also the mobile app. Please take a look on the mobile app that is available on Android and iOS, and you'll see how it functions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Puspita. And it's a wonderful example of a new technology representing a new generation that is obviously used to engaging with the world on the smartphone. And while traditionally craft has been something that you encounter in markets or shops, here is a way of ensuring that it remains at hand for a new generation. So thank you very much, everyone, for being part of this discussion. I think it's shown us how technology is something that isn't just about taking away culture, but if used well with patience and understanding and commitment, that it can be, as Guy said, reflect a greater diversity. And I think one of the other perhaps themes that comes strongly through a number of these stories is how technology might also help us reconnect with nature. And I think that is part of, like Pariana talking about the butterflies, thinking about micro farming, about use of bacteria, and Guy's reference to using the negentropic, the structural properties of timber, that technology may actually help us get closer to nature rather than further away. So, terima kasih, thank you so much. This is an important moment in dialogue around craft and design across our wider world. And the next will be another crop of stories from this issue, which address more the way the story of craft is told, the understanding of the cultural narratives behind craft. So I wish you well, and thank you very much, and enjoy the rain.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Good to meet you
Kevin.
all.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Nice
Bye.
meeting you all.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, just hold on.